some sentence that doesn't make sense, I can stop and start again, right?
You can, yep. So this is, you can start again, or you can just live. Stop and keep going. Yeah. We're
CNN.
We're the opposite of live. So I'll probably just start here, and then I loved some of the answers in there. So if you ever need to stop and look at them, that's good.
Sure.
But I also love kind of the personal. We don't ever know exactly the storyline we're gonna tell until we get back to the editing block and we're cutting through.
Superhuman, I think it's our story to start with, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how it started. He wrote the music really. Oh, sorry. You need to ask me this question, right?
Yeah. No. I think. So Superhuman, it's your story.
Superhuman is our story. It started basically just, maybe not in a garage, but between the two of us, when I already was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and that was a few years down the road. I was still walking and everything, but I was in tremendous pain and very sad because the fatigue was kicking in, all of that. And Martin asked me, my birthday was coming up, and it's in December, 24th of December, Christmas, and he asked me a few months before what is it that I would like for my birthday. Probably thinking that I would say of some kind of insane jewelry or something, and I said that, nothing really, none of the commercial things made sense anymore, especially when you battle an illness like this. So then I said, well, you're a musician, I love when you play music for me, so write me a new upbeat, happy tune. And I knew it would pose a challenge for him, because Martin before, up to that moment, he used to only write very melancholic music, kind of sad, European, nostalgic. I am kind of lost and depressed, and I have a vertigo type of music. So he said, okay, it's your birthday, I better deliver. He went to the studio, and he told me afterwards that he was petrified. I mean, he had this is not me, I don't have that nature, and he wasn't also happy. Neither myself and him was happy under the circumstances of this all-consuming illness. But then he went to the studio, and magic happened. From some place, creativity kicked in, and all of a sudden he came and played to me this beautiful tune. I think it was Unlocking the Locks. That's how he started. The order of the album now it's different, but he started with that song, and I was just in awe. I was just like, oh my God, I have never heard a music like this. Not only it was very visual, it was long enough to be able to grasp my imagination and to take me places, and just I could see, I don't know, images. I suppose that was the power of the music at the time. And then all of a sudden there were some friends at our home. We used to love having dinners, and we played it. What do you think? Do you like the music? Martin likes to show off a little bit, so he was proud of this piece, and he played, and everybody was kind of grooving and liking it and encouraging him. So all of a sudden we came to conclusion, you know what, you wrote the last album about 8 years ago, why don't you try again? And that's how, so we also thought, what about the title? And he said, well, what does this music mean to you? What does it make you? How does it make you feel? And I realized that it kind of makes me forget a little bit about my predicament, and it takes me places that are not only wonderful and kind of remind me of myself from before, but also it gives me a little bit more, it empowers me a little bit more to fight this illness, because MS can be a monster that it's called incurable for a reason, that you might think it's going to eat you all alive sooner or later, and there is no reason to fight. Almost like you can give up. A lot of people actually do give up, right away. So for me, for a long time, it meant I can be in a better space to encounter my challenges with more energy and power, and think that I can prevail.
Hmm.
That's all. I think you have something there, maybe now and then.
No, I think that was perfect. That's pretty much all we need, really, is what you just said. I mean, you answered most all our questions. Do you, did Martin ever write music for you before?
I think a year in Zurich, there was one piece in Year in Zurich that he wrote inspired by his trips to Poland, to Warsaw and to Mazuria Lakes, which is called February in Mazuria. It's a beautiful piece, very Chopin-esque. Frédéric Chopin, our Polish great composer, and Martin loved Mazuria. He used to go to Mazuria Lakes too, and we were in the forest by the lake and talked about it, and then he was in the process of writing this album Here in Zurich, and he incorporated this piece because I've learned actually that in this album there were several other pieces dedicated to other women from his past, like Poem for Catherine, Eileen. I was like, what about me? So that's February in Mazuria he wrote. It's beautiful.
Okay.
He can play it for us tonight on the piano.
Oh, fun. That was in the previous album, or that's on? Okay.
Piano cello, he plays
Piano
both.
cello, okay. Yeah, he also talked about Bolero, which is one of my favorite pieces.
Yes, he
Not-
has tango in. I don't remember right now the title, but
Yeah,
Tango Bay, I think it's called on that album.
is inspired by that. Okay.
But that's the previous one.
And you talked about the music when you heard it. It kind of transported you. It kind of let you kind of forget about the illness. But everyone has their monsters. What do you want other people that listen to Superhuman? Like, what do you want them to feel, or what do you think they will
Well,
feel?
first of all, I would like to make sure that this album is not for people who are just sick with illnesses like myself. This is a predicament that doesn't happen very often, and it is definitely not an album for, I don't know, the Society of Multiple Sclerosis, But it definitely helped me for a reason, and I think that basically music in general is transcendental if well written and visual and beautiful sounding. So I think it will grasp people's souls and imagination and take them somewhere to a better place. And music in this way is transcendental, so people would be able to, no matter what would be their problem, no matter what would our little things that we deal with every day. I think we know that music, it takes us to better places, and it's one of those albums who will do the job very well for everyone else. And I think that's very gratifying. That's something that started just from my personal perspective, could be brought to a bigger audiences. I hope.
Sure. So, and you're obviously a very beautiful woman, and beautiful women have inspired great art all around. But how do you feel about being the inspiration for this album?
Thank you. I don't think I'm beautiful anymore, but and I also don't see it this way. You see, I don't think I inspired the album. I think that my husband listens to me a lot, and not always very happily. He asks me questions, or he asks me what shall I do, and not always is happy about what my directions or what I ask him to do. So it started as a birthday song for me, and I didn't think that I was inspiration per se to it. I think that I may have directed him to a area that he didn't know he actually had something to say, which all of a sudden became this new energy and upbeat high tunes that he thought that he was not capable to write. So that's something that I think I opened his mind to this new expression of himself. that also is very, very good for others to listen to. But I don't really believe that I am a muse or anything like this.
That's good. Um, so, okay, so, and then again,
Yeah, you don't have to ask all of it if you think you have it.
yeah, got that, got that.
Is there anything that you think that, since I already talked a lot, I feel more comfortable. Is there anything from the previous ones that you think are so important that we at least could give it a try?
So, I'm curious because I don't know, and I don't actually know except for what we were just asking Martin, but with Superhuman, you have the album, but then you also have this grand tour that he hopes to bring it to all these other people. And what is your feeling, or what are your thoughts? I'm assuming you guys have talked about that, but what do you want to see this album come into? Do you want to see it kind of stay an album, or do you want to see it become this big tour? Do you share that vision?
Well,
or what do you hope for it?
That's a double-edged question, because from my own perspective, being so very sick and handicapped, of course I would like my husband to be always by my side, especially that we happen to have this really good relationship. But and also I am very, very restricted in my moves. I pretty much spend time in the house within four walls. So I also know, on the other side, I also know that he wrote this amazing album, and it was always his dream to perform. And I mean, he did that with many famous artists all over the world, but I think that now he has something to say out there on the stage. He loves performing, and he would like to go on the road. Do I like the idea? I would support him, of course, because if you love someone, you have to set them free and you have to let them be. And I hope he will be successful and it will happen for him. It will be also gratifying for me because I know that a part of me will be out there somewhere floating in the audience, and people will get a little bit of that spirit maybe of trying to prevail no matter what. Yeah, I mean, I hope he will succeed, but and I really want this to happen to him, but from my perspective, it's a bit bittersweet, you know.
Sure, I can understand that. Did you know him when he was touring? Because he told us he got to tour with. He's very modest, I feel. He's very modest.
With Beck,
with Elton John.
Indigo Girls, he was playing with Elton John and Wembley, Madison Square Garden. Couple of other bands that at the moment
and did you know
Air
him
Supply.
back then?
No, we've met in 2002 on Match.com. I was in Warsaw working for a corporation, Gruner & Jahr, for a publication house. I was a multimedia director, and he was between Los Angeles and Zurich, but he wasn't touring at that time anymore. He worked with Hans Zimmer most of the time for movies at Remote Control, and the last movie, before he came to Warsaw to meet me in person, he just finished Black Hawk Down.
Okay.
But I wasn't aware of that. When he came and when we've met, we didn't really cover much of that. So when he came to Poland, I thought he was just a regular man that I've met on a very strange site that was not very popular at the time. And we were one of the very first people in Europe, I think, who were using it. And actually, for some reason, it worked.
Worked. And what were you most attracted to him by?
His eyes.
His eyes.
And they say that eyes are the mirror of the soul, and I think in his case and in our case it's true. I could see straight away what kind of man he is, and it carried on all those years.
Sorry, I'm a crier, and you are saying all these beautiful things. I photograph a lot of weddings, and my other shooter is also a crier, and we'll look at each other during the toast, and we're just like, oh my, we're both crying.
I'm sorry.
No, it's we cry because it's beautiful. I just love seeing that. You said you thought he was just this ordinary guy, and then
At that time,
how do you feel now?
well, I think I married a very talented man, almost I mean, like a genius almost. I mean, musically he's amazing. He can whip any tune. He plays amazingly piano, even though he didn't even have much of schooling in piano playing. His cello play. I mean, I know about from the music critics that his cello performances are outstanding, and from also composers that he goes and plays for. I know that they call him a genius. Recently, someone wrote. I think he was playing on was it either Pirates of the Caribbean, the new one, or a Ring Free, and the composer on Instagram posted Martin's picture from the recording session, writing that a genius at work. So I guess this is really not my opinion only. Plus, also he's a human being, and that's kind of hard to find sometimes.
Sure. And with
it's like some people always aspire to be better people, and with Martin, it's almost he was already formed, and I got to be lucky with that because with my kind of illness, I know from support groups, from Facebook Society, MS Society, a lot of people in my circumstances are being left by their partners and just let be because they have to live in homes or go back to their families because, well, this illness is horrible and it definitely doesn't only impact myself but also impact everybody around. And in our case, luckily we don't have children, but he didn't run away. It's not easy for us, of course, and they are very dark moments, but he stands by, for better and for worse.
Would you say at all he is superhuman?
I think he's more superhuman than myself, that's for sure. I have a fallible DNA.
Well, I think that is more than enough. I think you guys have a beautiful love story, and it makes me cry to see how beautiful that love story